Hi, I'm Yelena, and in this short tutorial, I'll show you how to make these super handy pressing pillows in 3 sizes, filled with wood shavings. They're really easy to sew, and I've prepared a free pattern that you can download using the link in the description under this video. Let me quickly share how I use them in my sewing projects. Size 1 is my go-to for most tasks. I use it constantly when shaping small accessories, like my ruby pouch, which is my official bestseller on Etsy. And when filming tutorials for the Lily tote and the Nina tote, one of my most loved and frequently purchased patterns. It's also great for pressing necklines and curved seams in garments, like when I'm sewing t-shirts. Sizes 2 and 3 are used in a similar way, mostly for setting seams. Size 2 is especially helpful when pressing sleeves, and I also like using it to open lining seams in pouches, especially in the ruby pouch. Don't forget, the pattern is completely free and you can find it in the description under this video. So let's get started. Now let's take a look at the printable pattern. The PDF file includes 5 pages in total. Before printing everything, make sure to check the test square on the first page. It should measure exactly 5 centimeters or 2 inches. This helps ensure that your printer settings are correct. Each sheet has a dashed box printed on it. This is your cutting guide. You'll need to trim the edges along these lines before assembling the pattern. Once the necessary sides of each sheet are trimmed, just like I'm showing here, go ahead and align the pattern pieces using the markings. Then tape the 4 sheets together to complete the full layout. Once your pattern is assembled, go ahead and cut out all 4 pieces. 3 are for the pillows and 1 is labeled filling funnel. This one is just a helper tool. You don't need to sew this piece. Simply roll it into a cone and tape it along the edge. That's it. Now your funnel is ready to help you fill the pillows with wood shavings. And a couple of quick notes about pattern markings. Each pillow piece is clearly numbered, so you'll know which size is which. You'll also see notches for the exterior fabric. These are helpful if you decide to make a removable cover. The opening will make it easier to slip the cover on and off your finished pillow. There are also notches for the lining, which mark the opening we'll use to fill the pillow with wood shavings. And finally, don't forget to follow the grain line when cutting your fabric. That part's important. Let me walk you through the materials I'm using. For the exterior fabric, I'm using lightweight cotton, but medium weight works well too. The most important thing is to use 100% natural fabric with no synthetic fibers. That also applies to the lining. I always use plain white cotton for the bottom layer. When choosing your exterior fabric, go for solid colors or subtle prints. Bright, saturated fabrics can bleed during pressing and may leave stains on your garments or accessories. Always pre-wash your fabric to avoid shrinking or color transfer later on. It's a small step that can prevent a lot of problems. As for the filling, I'm using green apple wood shavings, 100% hardwood. Make sure not to use pine or other softwoods. They may contain resin, which can melt under heat and leave stains on your projects. Avoid using sawdust or very fine shavings. Those can make your pillow dusty. But extra large shavings aren't ideal either. They make it hard to pack the pillow tightly, and the pillow may go flat with use. Aim for a medium texture. For each size, cut 2 pieces of exterior fabric and 2 pieces of lining fabric, placing the layers right sides together. Before we move on, let me show you one of my older pressing pillows. As you can see, it's been through a lot. I've used it for small accessories, but also for clothing I sew for myself and my loved ones. Over time, with heavy use, the surface naturally gets stained. That's why some people prefer to sew the layers separately and create a removable cover. If the cover gets dirty, you can wash it or simply make a new one, without having to replace the whole pillow. In this tutorial, I'll show you the simplest version, sewing all the layers together as one piece. Also, don't forget to transfer all the notches from the pattern. Since we're sewing a single layer pillow, you'll need to use the lining notches as guides on all 4 fabric pieces. These notches will help you leave the right opening for stuffing the pillow with wood shavings. Place the 2 exterior fabric pieces right sides together. Then take 1 lining piece and place it on the back side of each exterior piece. You should now have 4 layers. Lining, exterior, exterior, lining, stacked in that order. Make sure everything is aligned. This is how we'll sew the pillow in one go. Make sure the notches for the turning opening are aligned across all 4 layers. Then pin all the way around, but leave that opening unpinned. If you're a beginner or pins feel too slippery, you can baste the layers together first for extra stability. Now it's time to sew all the layers together. Start sewing at the first notch, and don't forget to begin with a secure backstitch. This will help keep the seam from coming undone when we turn the pillow right side out. Sew around the edge using a 1 centimeter or 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Take your time sewing through all 4 layers and make sure your stitch length is set to 2.5 millimeters. Stop at the second notch and finish with another strong backstitch to lock the seam in place. This opening will be under quite a bit of stress later when we flip and stuff the pillow, so those 2 back stitches, at the beginning and end, are especially important. Here's what the finished seam should look like. Next, we'll clip the curves to help everything turn smoothly. Let's start with the rounded corners and edges. This step is important because it helps reduce bulk and allows the pillow to lie flat once it's turned right side out. Using sharp scissors, carefully cut triangle-shaped notches along the curved parts of the seam allowance. These small cuts release tension in the fabric and help the curves look smooth and professional after flipping. Be sure to stop about 1 to 2 millimeters before the seam, close enough to reduce the bulk, but not so close that you risk cutting into your stitches. Damaging the seam here could weaken it and cause it to split later. And here's what your piece should look like once all the notches are clipped and ready for turning. Next, turn the pillow right side out through the opening we left earlier. Take your time as you flip the layers and gently push out the seams, especially along the curved edges, to get a smooth shape. Make sure everything is fully turned and the corners are rounded nicely. Here's what the piece should look like at this stage, ready to be filled. Now take the paper funnel we made back in step 1 and insert it into the opening of the pillow. Pin it in place on both sides to keep it secure. This will make it much easier to add most of the wood shavings in the next step. You'll still need to finish stuffing by hand, but the funnel helps get the majority in without any mess. Now we're going to fill the pillow with wood shavings. Start by pouring a handful of shavings into the funnel. Shake the pillow lightly and let the shavings settle. Then keep adding more. I like to do this gradually, filling, shaking, and filling again. When the shavings stop going down easily, gently use your hand to push them in and redistribute the filling inside the pillow. This helps create extra room and ensures an even shape. At this stage, I keep repeating the process. Add, shake, press, and add again, until the pillow is about 3/4 full and starts feeling firm. Once the funnel is no longer helpful, unpin it and carefully remove it. Then use your hand to compress the filling from the inside, making more room for additional shavings. At this point, continue stuffing by hand, adding more, pressing it down, and shaping the pillow until it's fully packed and nicely rounded. Once the pillow is dense enough, pin the opening closed. It might look a little uneven right now. That's okay. You can adjust the shape once everything is secured. And before we move on, I like to brush off any loose shavings, just to keep everything clean and ready for the final step. To close the opening, I'm using a ladder stitch, also known as an invisible stitch. I've threaded a needle with double thread and tied the ends together to form a loop. First, I remove one of the pins holding the opening. Then, I insert the needle from inside the seam fold and pull it through, but not all the way. I pass the needle through the loop at the end of the thread to make a small knot. This locks the thread in place without leaving a knot on the outside. Now I begin stitching. I insert the needle into the fold on one side and make a small horizontal stitch, around 3 to 5 millimeters long. That's about 1/8 to 1/4 inch. Then I go directly across and make the same stitch in the fold on the opposite side. I repeat these small stitches back and forth, like rungs on a ladder. As I gently pull the thread, the seam closes and the stitches disappear. Once the opening is fully closed, I tie off the thread with 2 tiny knots and bury it inside the pillow to keep everything neat and invisible. Then I use my hands to smooth and shape the pillow, spreading the wood shavings evenly. You can also give it a quick steam press for a sharper finish. But that part is totally optional. And that's it. Your pressing pillow is ready to use. Here you can see all 3 sizes from the set, including the one we made together in this video. The pattern is completely free to download, and you'll find the link right below, in the description under this video. You'll also find links to all the sewing patterns I mentioned today, including the Ruby pouch, Lily tote, and Nina tote. Just scroll down and check the full list in the description. Now, let me show you one of my favorite ways to use these pillows in real life. Here I'm working on a Ruby pouch, and you can see how the pressing pillow creates a soft, curved surface that helps shape the fabric beautifully before final assembly. It's a small tool, but it makes such a big difference when shaping corners, curves, or delicate details. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and feel inspired to make your own pressing set. If you have any questions or just want to share your thoughts, I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below. Your feedback means a lot and helps me create better content for you in the future. Thank you so much for sewing with me today. And until next time, happy sewing!